First up, Hollow Knight. If you've ever wanted a game to simultaneously break your heart and your willpower, Hollow Knight is here for you. A beautifully hand-drawn world packed with mystery, challenge, and enough atmosphere to make you forget you have other responsibilities. Exploration feels rewarding. Combat feels tight. And the lore? Oh, it's deep. So deep you'll end up watching lore videos at 3 a.m. trying to piece it all together. But the real challenge is figuring out where you're going without constantly consulting the map. Hollow Knight isn't just a game, it's an experience. An experience that teaches you patience, perseverance, and the undeniable fact that tiny bugs can, in fact, ruin your life. After hours of wandering through Hollow Knight's maze-like world, it's only natural to start questioning your life choices. Luckily, Disco Elysium is here to take that existential crisis to a whole new level. Disco Elysium throws you into the chaotic mind of a washed-up detective with nothing but a bad hangover and a worse sense of self-worth. It's a detective RPG where your biggest enemy isn't the criminals, it's your own thoughts. The game constantly bombards you with inner monologues, questionable impulses, and philosophical debates that somehow make forgetting your own name seem perfectly normal. Every choice you make, from investigating a murder to figuring out how to exist in society, feels weighty and absurdly human. And while solving crimes is the goal, the real challenge is surviving your own terrible decision-making skills. You'll go from contemplating the universe to barely getting dressed in the morning. It's brutally honest, occasionally ridiculous, and somehow completely brilliant. Done arguing with yourself? Great. Now try arguing with a 100-foot-tall stone giant. Welcome to Shadow of the Colossus. This is a game that doesn't hold your hand, because honestly, it's too busy breaking your heart. Armed with nothing but a sword, a horse, and an unhealthy amount of hope, you'll set off across a vast, lonely landscape in search of towering colossi to take down. Each fight feels like a puzzle wrapped in a boss battle, and every victory feels, well, not quite like a victory. And then there's Aggro, your loyal companion, your greatest asset, and occasionally your biggest frustration. Whether gracefully galloping through open fields or stubbornly refusing to cooperate, Aggro makes sure you're never truly alone in this lonely world. Shadow of the Colossus is proof that sometimes the quietest games say the most, leaving you with questions long after the credits roll. Time to shift to something darker. Next up, Bloodborne, where everything wants you dead. In Bloodborne, you're not just fighting enemies, you're fighting your own sense of sanity. It's a game that greets you with gothic architecture, haunting music, and enemies that seem designed specifically to ruin your day. Combat is fast, brutal, and relentless, rewarding aggression and punishing hesitation. Every encounter feels like it could be your last, and honestly, it probably will be. But here's the thing, Bloodborne isn't just about survival, it's about obsession. The kind that keeps you up at night, whispering just one more try, while you dodge and weave through grotesque horrors. And the story? It's buried in cryptic item descriptions and NPC mutterings that make Hollow Knight's lore feel like light reading. And then there's Yharnam itself, a city so beautifully bleak, you'll find yourself admiring the scenery right up until something lunges at you from the shadows. It's a love letter to horror, mystery, and most importantly, patience. Because in Bloodborne, victory doesn't come easy. But when it does, it's worth every drop of sweat, every shattered controller, and every whispered curse word.
Good hunter, your presence somehow soothes. What is it you desire?
Survived Bloodborne? Good. Now let's take all that hard-earned skill and throw it into an even bigger, more terrifying world. Welcome to Elden Ring. Elden Ring takes everything you love about From Software games, challenging combat, cryptic lore, and a world that actively hates you, and dials it up to 11. But this time, you're not confined to dark alleyways and cramped castles. Now you have an entire open world to get lost in. And trust me, you will get lost. Whether it's wandering into an area you have no business being in, or accidentally triggering a boss fight, while just trying to enjoy the scenery, Elden Ring makes sure you're always one step away from disaster. And then there's the world itself, massive, hauntingly beautiful, and packed with secrets that you'll either discover through relentless exploration, or by Googling after the 50th death. Every towering castle and eerie swamp feels like it's daring you to explore, and regret it later. Elden Ring is an open world filled with beauty, mystery, and countless ways to meet an untimely demise, but at least the sunsets are nice. If Elden Ring taught you how to suffer, The Witcher 3 teaches you how to suffer in style. Step into the boots of Geralt of Rivia, monster slayer, professional brooder, and the only guy who can't seem to take 3 steps without getting dragged into someone else's problems. The world of The Witcher 3 is massive, and it's aggressively packed with distractions. You set out to hunt a legendary beast terrorizing a village, and 3 hours later, you're waist-deep in political intrigue, debating moral dilemmas, and somehow in yet another tavern playing Gwent. Because in Geralt's world, saving the world can wait. There's a rare card to win. And speaking of distractions, the side quests here are so good, they'll make you forget the main quest entirely. Every job, from hunting down terrifying monsters to helping a lovesick ghost, comes with layers of depth, consequence, and sometimes a bit too much emotional investment. Choices actually matter too. Unlike other games where your decisions feel about as impactful as choosing between 2 shades of grey, The Witcher 3 makes sure every choice leaves a mark on kingdoms, on people, and most importantly, on your conscience. It's a world that feels alive, unpredictable, and full of heartbreak. But hey, at least you'll always have Roach, your trusty horse who will absolutely get stuck on a fence at the worst possible moment. In The Witcher 3, your biggest gamble is picking the wrong dialogue option. In Baldur's Gate 3, you'll literally gamble your life on a dice roll, and sometimes the dice just hate you. Larian Studios has crafted a world where every decision matters, sometimes in ways you won't realize until hours later. Will you be a noble hero, a chaotic wildcard, or just the person who accidentally ruins an entire town because you technically said the wrong thing? The possibilities are endless, so are the ways to regret them. Your companions are full-fledged disasters with deep backstories, with questionable morals and, in some cases, an alarming enthusiasm for setting things on fire. Whether they're helping, betraying, or emotionally scarring you, every interaction feels meaningful and unpredictable. Then there's the combat. Turn-based, tactical, and filled with moments of brilliance or absolute chaos. A perfectly executed strategy can make you feel like a genius. A single botched dice roll can turn it into a tragic comedy. And sometimes, the best laid plans are ruined by a barrel that, for some reason, explodes way bigger than you expected. No matter how well you plan, something or someone will throw everything into chaos. And that's the magic of Baldur's Gate 3. Every playthrough is a beautiful, hilarious, and occasionally heartbreaking disaster of your own making. Baldur's Gate 3 teaches you that no matter how well you prepare, luck is always the final boss. Done rolling dice, let's see how your luck holds in the neon shadows of Cyberpunk 2077, where survival and style often trump choice. Step into the shoes of V, a mercenary trying to carve out a legacy in a city where the rich get richer and the rest get cybernetic implants just to keep up. Whether you're hacking corporate secrets, upgrading your cyberware, or just trying to avoid getting run over by a rogue NPC, Cyberpunk 2077 delivers an experience that's as unpredictable as its visuals. And of course, there's Johnny Silverhand, your personal rockstar turned ghost life coach, here to remind you that sticking it to the system is always a good idea, even if the system sticks back. Sure, it had a rough launch, some would say legendary, but with years of updates and improvements, Night City is finally the playground it was meant to be. Suit up, grab your cyber deck, and remember, style matters, even in a dystopian nightmare. After the neon chaos of cyberpunk, let's strip things down to something raw, emotional, and utterly soul-crushing. The Last of Us Part 1. A game that doesn't just tell a story, it makes you feel every agonizing step of it. You're not just playing as Joel and Ellie, you're surviving with them. Every encounter feels like a life or death struggle. You will carry the weight of what's been lost and every emotional gut punch. There are plenty, and they hurt. The world may be falling apart, but Naughty Dog makes sure it falls apart beautifully, with painstakingly detailed environments that make you stop and soak in the devastation, right before something lunges at you from the shadows. And the real kicker? It's not the infected that are the scariest part, it's the people. Because when society collapses, it turns out the biggest threat isn't zombies, it's humanity itself. With a story that lingers long after the credits roll, The Last of Us, Part 1, isn't just an apocalypse. It's an emotional roller coaster wrapped in survival horror. And once you're done, don't worry. Part 2 is waiting to emotionally wreck you all over again. Next is a game that will make you question reality itself. Alan Wake 2. Remedy Entertainment returns with a psychological thriller that doesn't just play with your fears, it rewrites them. This time, Alan's journey takes him deeper into darkness, literally and figuratively. The line between fiction and reality is so blurred, you'll start wondering if your own reflection is watching you back. The atmosphere? Thick enough to cut with a knife, and the tension never lets up. Combat isn't about brute force, it's about survival. Your flashlight isn't just a weapon, it's your last line of defense against the creeping horrors waiting in the dark. Every step forward feels like a gamble, and every shadow feels a little too alive. Alan Wake 2 isn't just another horror game, it's a masterclass in storytelling, atmosphere, and making you second-guess every noise in your house. Sweet dreams. If Alan Wake 2 made you question reality, Silent Hill 2 Remake will make you question everything else. Your choices, your sanity, and why you thought playing it at night was a good idea. Konami's classic horror masterpiece returns with updated visuals so disturbingly real, you'll swear you can feel the fog creeping into your living room. Silent Hill is a town, but it is like a character, one that knows all your fears and isn't afraid to use them against you. James Sunderland's descent into madness is more immersive than ever, thanks to improved visuals, sound design that whispers your worst nightmares, and monsters that somehow look even worse in high definition. The combat is still clunky, the atmosphere is still suffocating, and Pyramid Head? Silent Hill 2 Remake doesn't just modernize a classic, it reintroduces you to horror in its purest form. And whether it's your first trip to Silent Hill or your return visits, one thing's for sure, you're not getting out unscathed. Once you finally break free from Silent Hill's fog, brace yourself for a different kind of ordeal, because God of War takes everything you thought you knew about Kratos, rage, destruction, and yelling, and adds something unexpected, depth. This time he's older, wiser, and stuck with his biggest challenge yet, parenting. And it turns out, guiding a son through the Norse wilds is a lot harder than slaying gods. The game drops Greek mythology and plunges you into the cold, mysterious realm of Norse legends, where breathtaking vistas, towering foes, and just enough father-son friction might make you question your own life choices. Combat is heavier and more visceral. Every swing of the Leviathan Axe feels powerful. But beneath all the cinematic fights and jaw-dropping set pieces, there's a story about grief, responsibility, and learning how to be a better person, or at least trying. God of War isn't just a reboot, it's a reminder that even the angriest gods can grow up, eventually. Think God of War is too chaotic? Ghost of Tsushima offers a more measured, almost meditative approach. If meditative means slicing through hordes of Mongols with surgical samurai precision, you'll wander a stunning open-world island, guided by the wind and your own sense of honor. Combat is graceful yet lethal. One wrong move and you'll you'll feel the sting of a katana faster than you can say honorable duel. But the real beauty lies in how the game balances serenity and violence. One moment, you're composing a haiku under a maple tree. The next, you're in a white-knuckled standoff with half a dozen enemies. Ghost of Tsushima is a love letter to classic samurai cinema. It's visually breathtaking, surprisingly peaceful in its quieter moments, and it'll make you rethink whether your next fight should be a fair duel or a sneaky assassination. From sweeping samurai vistas to the rat-infested alleys of medieval Europe, a plague tale drags you into a world of desperation, disease, and a sibling bond that won't quit. Amicia and Hugo's journey is like a medieval road trip. If your car was a torch, and your biggest obstacle was an ocean of plague-ridden rats. Stealth is paramount. Combat is less about clashing swords and more about not becoming rodent chow. But the true heart of a plague tale lies in its emotional storytelling. You'll feel every ounce of fear, every spark of hope, and every pang of sacrifice. It's a slow burn in the best way, methodical, suspenseful, and absolutely haunting. If Ghost of Tsushima is about refined swordplay, A Plague Tale is about holding your breath and praying the rats don't hear you. Ready for a change of pace? Swap out medieval rats for the brooding streets of Gotham in Batman Arkham Knight. Don the cape and cowl to face villains who've truly outdone themselves in the overly dramatic and dangerous department. Glide through the city like you own it, because, well, you kind of do. Free-flow combat remains as satisfying as ever. There's nothing quite like stringing together a combo that makes henchmen question their career choices. The Batmobile even joins the party, adding high-speed chases to your after-dark activities. Arkham Knight is a playground for anyone who's ever fantasized about being the world's greatest detective, or scaring the pants off criminals with a good old-fashioned I'm Batman. From Gotham's shadowy alleys to the sun-soaked chaos of Rook Island, Far Cry 3 flings you into a tropical paradise that doubles as your worst nightmare. When you're not busy trying to save your friends from kidnappers, you're setting enemy outposts on fire, sometimes literally. This is open world mayhem at its best. You'll skydive, hunt wildlife with a bow, and maybe question your sanity while dealing with Voss, the most memorable pirate with a mohawk since, well, ever. It's all about finding your own fun, whether that's stealthy takedowns or explosions that wake the neighbors. Far Cry 3 reminds you that paradise can be hell, but at least you'll have a blast discovering just how far off the deep end you can go. From the sun-drenched chaos of Far Cry 3, we dive into something a little more mythical. Black Myth Wukong takes the legend of the Monkey King and turns it into a jaw-dropping action RPG that looks so good, you'll wonder if your PC can even handle it. Inspired by the classic Chinese novel Journey to the West, this game throws you into a world of ancient myth, larger-than-life creatures, and combat so fluid it feels like a martial arts. Every encounter is a delicate balance of speed, strategy, and figuring out how many transformations and spells you can pull off before getting smacked across the battlefield. Speaking of transformations, Wukong has tricks. From shape-shifting into different creatures to wielding his legendary staff with precision, every fight feels like a test of your adaptability. And trust me, you'll need every trick in the book, because Wukong doesn't hold back when it comes to throwing massive, terrifying bosses your way. Not just combat either, this world is dripping with atmosphere. Ancient temples, misty mountains, and creatures straight out of folklore make every step forward feel like stepping into a legend. It's the kind of game that makes you stop just to admire the scenery, right before getting blindsided by a mythical beast you weren't quite ready for. From the mythological chaos of Wukong, let's switch gears to a different kind of legend, the legend of Nathan Drake, a man who's somehow still alive after everything he's been through. Uncharted 4 is a masterclass in cinematic storytelling, breathtaking action, and the fine art of barely hanging on by your fingertips. This time the stakes feel personal. It's not just about treasure, it's about Nate's past catching up with him, forcing him to choose between the life he left behind and the one he's built. But don't worry, just because the story is deeper doesn't mean it skimps on the usual chaos. Whether you're dodging bullets, toppling ancient ruins, or clinging to a speeding truck by the sheer power of plot armor, it's the same over-the-top adventure we know and love, just with a little more emotional weight. And the gameplay? As smooth as ever. Gunfights are punchy, climbing is as exhilarating and implausible as ever. And the set pieces? Let's just say they'll leave you wondering how Drake still has functioning knees. It's a fitting farewell to one of gaming's most beloved heroes, packed with thrills, nostalgia, and just enough heart to make you wonder if you should pick up rock climbing, or maybe just stick to the couch. If you thought searching for pirate treasure was risky, wait until you're messing with orc armies in Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. In a world full of epic fantasies, Shadow of Mordor stands out by letting you create your own. You're not just taking down orcs. You're building rivalries, forming grudges, and turning every battle into a personal vendetta. The Nemesis system ensures that every enemy you face has a story, and if you thought a low-level grunt wouldn't remember you, think again. Combat is fluid, movement is satisfying, and sneaking through enemy camps makes you feel like the world's deadliest parkour enthusiast. Whether you are controlling minds or just enjoying the chaos, every fight feels like it matters. And let's be honest, nothing beats the satisfaction of taking down the same orc who embarrassed you 3 hours ago. Shadow of Mordor is about saving the world, and it is also about making sure every orc in Mordor remembers your name, even if they come back with a few extra scars. If you've ever wanted to get lost in a game, like really lost, Skyrim is the gold standard. 1 minute you're following the main quest, and the next, you're halfway across the map, knee-deep in a random dungeon, having completely forgotten why you were there in the first place. It's a second life, where you're the Dragonborn, shouter of words, slayer of dragons, and occasional cabbage thief. The world of Skyrim is packed with stories, whether it's whispered in the halls of the Thieves' Guild, sung in a tavern over a pint of mead, or written in the countless books you'll promise to read but never will. Every town, ruin, and mountaintop feels like it has a secret just waiting to be uncovered. And of course, let's not forget the real star of Skyrim, the mods. Because when Bethesda hands you a vast open world, the internet hands you Thomas the Tank Engine dragons, flying horses, and a reason to reinstall Skyrim for the 15th time. Whether you're shouting dragons out of the sky or hoarding cheese, Skyrim delivers adventure in spades. Time to swap swords and dragons for something a little more existential. Outer Wilds isn't about saving the universe, it's about understanding it. You're stuck in a time loop, reliving the same 22 minutes over and over again, trying to piece together the mysteries of a long-lost civilization before the sun goes supernova. No pressure, right? But here's the catch, there's no combat, no enemies, just you, your tiny spaceship, and the crushing weight of curiosity. You'll navigate strange planets, decipher ancient texts, and probably die a lot in hilariously unexpected ways. Whether it's falling into a black hole, suffocating in deep space, or realizing too late that your ship's autopilot is not to be trusted. The beauty of Outer Wilds is that each mistake is just another lesson in this cosmic sandbox of confusion. Every strange phenomenon has a purpose, every clue leads you deeper into the mystery, and every discovery feels like a personal victory. And if you think you're just playing a game, think again. Outer Wilds is quietly one of the most profound experiences gaming has to offer. So, buckle up, set your coordinates, and remember, dying is just part of the journey. Next up, Nier Automata, a game that asks deep philosophical questions, and then hands you a giant sword to answer them. You play as 2B, an android with killer moves and even better fashion sense, slicing through machines in a world that's falling apart faster than your understanding of the plot. The combat, slick, the music, haunting, the story, well, let's just say it'll leave you questioning your existence multiple times. Just when you think you're done, surprise, you're not. Nier loves to pull you back in with more endings, more twists, and more existential dread. But hey, at least it looks cool while doing it. If you thought you were good at video games, Sekiro is here to humble you. From Software Trade's gothic horror for feudal Japan, but don't worry. The crushing difficulty and existential dread are still very much intact. In Sekiro, there's no hiding behind shields or spamming dodge rolls. It's all about perfecting your timing, reading your enemy's every move, and learning that failure isn't just an option, it's a way of life. The combat is a beautifully brutal dance of precision, where every deflection, counter, and death blow feels earned, and you will earn them after dying a few hundred times first. But beyond the punishment lies a world rich with stunning landscapes, haunting lore, and some of the most memorable boss fights in gaming. And just when you think you've mastered the art of the shinobi, Sekiro reminds you that true mastery isn't about getting good, it's about getting back up. Again, and again, and again. If Sekiro taught you discipline, Red Dead Redemption 2 teaches you patience, because everything from riding your horse to brewing coffee is crafted with painstaking detail. Rockstar's epic western isn't just a game, it's a living, breathing world where you can hunt, fish, rob trains, and occasionally remember there's a story to follow. You step into the worn boots of Arthur Morgan, an outlaw with a conscience, caught between loyalty to his gang and the slow death of the Wild West. Every character feels alive, every town has a story, and every sunset reminds you that Rockstar really knows how to flex on the competition. The world doesn't revolve around you, it exists, with or without your interference. And sure, you could rush through the main quest, but why would you? There's poker to play, strangers to help, and let's not forget the countless hours you'll spend grooming your horse to perfection. Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't just an open-world game, it's an experience that immerses you in the beauty, brutality, and bittersweet reality of the dying Wild West. So saddle up, take it slow, and remember, sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. And that's the list. Now go play something,